What an interesting rifle. The SIG SPEAR in 6.8 by 5.1. Revolutionary? Much of the same? That's a good question, and today on Grand Thumb, we're going to talk about it. Now, before we get into this rifle, we need to thank the biggest sponsor of this channel. The biggest sponsor of this channel is, of course, the Sonoran Desert Institute. A big thank you to them. Go check them out if you're looking to get your start in gunsmithing. They absolutely rock. The SIG MCX SPEAR. Things have really changed for this rifle because this rifle, as of this video, is now adopted by the United States military. And from there, we will likely have wide adoption to probably all the branches of the military, probably many other countries. Things are about to shift. So I want to be honest with you guys. I have been very, very biased against many of the competitors in the rifle program being put on by the DoD. And I wasn't really that impressed. And least of all those options that we had, I was most of all not impressed with the MCX SPEAR. And I wasn't really that impressed. And least of all those options that we had, I was most of all not impressed with the MCX SPEAR. I saw it in many ways as a step backwards, as not a good rifle. It didn't seem to be very forward thinking to me, and I just was not really interested in it. I do want to say that after shooting it, many things have changed for me. So the question is, why has the military opted to go for a caliber that is capable of piercing body armor, for being able to carry less ammo? There's a lot of questions that I have, because it was previously shown that it wasn't so much the precision of the rifle, the caliber of the rifle, or the range of the rifle that was really mattering in gunfights. What ended up being the determining factor was the amount of ammunition that could be carried. So to start off with, the SIG MCX SPEAR is a 6.8 by 51 caliber rifle. So you can see this guy right here. Mikey, you want to come in and take a look at that guy? So in many ways, it looks very similar to the 7.62 by 5.1, the 308 NATO that we all know and love. However, in the military versions, we have a much higher pressure in the round. This is due to the mix of gunpowder that they used so that we can achieve very high velocities from these shorter barrel lengths. So you have to understand that the pressures generated in the SIG MCX SPEAR can greatly exceed what we're typically use. So Mike, if you'll come in right here and take a look. So brass, of course, can only take so much pressure, especially given the thickness of a casing. So by using a stainless steel base, what we're able to do, or what SIG is able to do, is one, make the walls thinner and also have more pressure on the round. Now in this case, we don't have the military round, so we can't show that very well. But the point being is that they're able to use higher pressures, typically use. So Mike, if you'll come in right here and take a look. So brass, of course, can only take so much pressure, especially given the thickness of a casing. So by using a stainless steel base, what we're able to do, or what SIG is able to do, is one, make the walls thinner and also have more pressure on the round. Now in this case, we don't have the military round, so we can't show that very well. But the point being is that they're able to use higher pressures, and we're able to push more out of the gun as we see it right here, which is pretty cool. Of course, there had to be a evolution when it came to cartridge. I don't know if this is a huge leap. I think that there are some probably other manufacturers that are looking at kind of a better leap in terms of ammunition technology. But certainly it did work, because as you can see in this video right here, we're going to be chronographing the SPEAR. Now the problem that we have is military ammunition is very hard to come by, so we have something that's close. Now this is the higher pressure ammo. You can see it has the stainless steel base right there, which allows it to get closer to that kind of 80,000 PSI that the SIG SPEAR is known for. It's not quite there. This isn't as fast as the military ammunition. Nonetheless, we are going to chrono it. Out of a 16-inch barrel, we're looking at around 2,800. But the SIG SPEAR is, of course, a 13-inch barrel, so I'm interested to see how it chronos. Okay, 2823.
That's pretty accurate.
Actually. So starting from the tip here, we do have our suppressor from SIG.
That's pretty accurate.
Actually. So starting from the tip here, we do have our suppressor from SIG. Now, it should be noted, we fired many, many rounds, and this guy's hard carbon locked. It is a good suppressor. It's a flow-through type suppressor. So the sound levels that we're seeing from the 277 Fury /6.8 were actually very quiet. Micah, you actually talked about that at the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I took the AirPro off for just a couple shots just to test, and honestly, I think 760 by 39 suppressed is honestly louder.
I do agree with you, man. It was actually fairly quiet. I don't really care to measure the decibel levels because that really doesn't matter. It's more about the tone when it comes to a suppressor. But I was very impressed with the sound signature, and the flash signature we haven't been able to see as well, but being a flow-through suppressor, you are going to get more flash. That being said, as far as being a mass-issued weapon, I think that is a good feature on it. I do like what they did with the suppressor and the design that they have there. The thing that I think I've seen a lot of in a military rifle is too thin of a barrel, which leads to a lot of problems, especially when it comes to heat. So if you come in and take a look at this barrel, she is a thick boy. So I can't say enough good things about the thickness that we're seeing there, especially for the shot dispersal pattern that we're seeing. As far as our combat accuracy, we're easily able to make shots 300, 500, 600. This is a rifle that can easily make the shots at the combat distances that you would typically see. So I don't really have a whole lot of qualms when it comes to the barrel length, the accuracy, or anything like that with this particular rifle. You shot this thing full auto too. You know this thing?
Yeah, like 3 mags back to back. I had no gloves.
Yeah, it was fine. I really haven't noticed this thing getting like abnormally hot. There are some guns like the SIG 5.52 where it will literally just burn you alive, but you're not seeing that with the SIG SPEAR. And if you look as well, we do have several QD mounting points. So as far as integral QDs are concerned, I'm typically not a fan of them. I do understand the use of them when it comes to a military rifle, just to simplify things. So I understand it does add weight to the system. That being said, the QD, good. Obviously with me, I like to have my QDs all the way forward. That's just the way I like to have my sling set up. So having it back is kind of not as great for me because I'm still gonna have to add that QD slot just a little bit forward of that. And on that same note, our QDs at the rear point. So at the rear of the receiver, on that same note, we do have QDs at both sides, as you can see right there. Obviously, both work really well, the side charging kind of being what they want it to go to. I did notice a couple things running the side charging on this particular guy. I gave myself SIG SPEAR thumb. So if you lock that back and you don't push that guy forward, so if it's still back when that bolt is locked back, and you hit that bolt release, there's a high chance that you're gonna go ahead and give yourself SIG SPEAR thumb. Be careful. It's gonna be my new name. Nobody take that channel name, it's mine. But small, odd little design choices like that are pretty typical of military rifles. Obviously, I wish they would have just gotten rid of one system, just stuck with the side charging or gone with the rear charging. Military is gonna do what the military is gonna do. I think that there's unnecessary complexity when it comes to that system, but it is what it is. Now, the controls on the SIG MCX are ambidextrous. So if we come over to the side right here, we do of course have our magazine release. On the opposite side, we have magazine release for our lefties out there who are often forgotten about. And beyond that, we also have our bolt release is on both sides. You have your standard M4 bolt release, as I showed you right there, as well as a bolt release right here. So technically, you can actually do those reloads pretty quickly with the MCX SPEAR. I really don't have any qualms or issues with the controls. I've made a lot of comparisons of this particular weapon to like a SCAR, because a SCAR is of a similar weight, a similar size, but this 100% is better than by a SCAR, I mean SCAR H, is better than it. And I do believe outclasses it in terms of ergonomics, in terms of the round that is used, in terms of features. It's just a better rifle in so many ways. Which also brings me to my point of, you know, what do I think of this rifle as well? Because this is going to be the standard infantry rifle coming up here in probably in the next 10 to 15 years as, you know, M4s are slowly phased out. So I guess the best way of saying it would be that if you're a shooter, this is a phenomenal weapon. So I guess the best way of saying it would be that if you're a shooter, this is a phenomenal weapon. And I say that because when we're talking about everything going on here, this is a fairly light recoiling rifle, especially for the round that you have. Question in my mind is, are the sacrifices worth it, right? Because when we go down to the magazines, we are using your AR-10 type magazines. These are from Lancer that are typically used on the Spear. And we have about a 20 round magazine. You have to understand that a 25 round magazine for these big chunky boys is fairly large and is fairly hard to fit on a plate carrier. We have about a 20 round magazine. You have to understand that a 25 round magazine for these big chunky boys is fairly large and is fairly hard to fit on a plate carrier. So we're going to a smaller magazine size. We have a larger round. That means we're going to be able to carry less ammunition. The problem with that being that when we go back to the Vietnam War, from the adoption of the M14 to the changeover to the M16, That change was made because the engagement distances that were found in combat were typically about 300 meters or less. And what typically was winning engagements was not so much these powerful rifle rounds that were extremely accurate, this idea of the rifleman, which has been very much so an American thing for a long time, and yeah, riflemen rock. But it ended up being who could put out the most rounds, who could keep the other party down in cover, who could suppress them with fire while another team maneuvered on them and shot them up. And of course, 5.56 in many ways is going to be a less powerful cartridge than something like 277 or 308. But at the same time, what mattered more was your ability to suppress an enemy and maneuver on them. I do worry because for me, this is a phenomenal rifle. Mike asked me, hey, if you were issued this, what would you think? And I was like, I would love it, man. This is a great rifle. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of capability there. So the problem is when we talk about en masse adoption by the military, is this going to present problems in terms of recoil, in terms of weight, in terms of barrel life? Because this is a much hotter round. This thing is pissing hot, and it is going to burn out barrels faster. We're looking at about a 10 to 12K barrel life. And I do understand M4s or URGIs firing M855 Alpha 1 also have a similar barrel life. But for the most part, these barrels are being pushed past that point and are still having acceptable accuracy. I do wonder about the ability of these barrels to be en masse replaced at the 10K mark, especially with the amount of rounds that need to be fired at a company level to keep everybody proficient. These are the general concerns I have about the SIG MCX Spear. There's a possibility of a longer engagement distance. I should probably pick up my SIG MCX Spear. I have the capability of piercing body armor. I can fire longer. I can engage at longer distances. Versus if I'm in a city, this is probably not the guy I would want. For a shorter engagement distance, that M4, that URGI, is a wonderful weapon. That 5.56 really shines at those distances. So again, there's no free lunch. There is no rifle that is going to perform best in every scenario. I don't believe that this will likely be the actual trigger used by the military. This is probably going to be the one that's coming with the commercial SIG MCX Spear. But if it is the one with the military, very nice trigger. I would expect a very mil-spec-like trigger from the MCX. It's what you know and love from the M4, guys. Now, thank God on the MCX Spear to fold the stock as opposed to like yanking up on it and trying to do weird stuff. In many ways, what we see with the SIG MCX Spear is likely a reaction to the experiences of Afghanistan, where we had very long engagement distances. As a quick note, I went on a little bit of tangent there, guys, but it was kind of the place for it. So moving forward on the MCX Spear, let's talk a little bit about the fire control group, the grip, and the trigger. So moving over to our grip right here, I do like SIG grips quite a bit. Very reduced angle, very easy to get in on these guns right here and engage with them in a more modern shooting stance. So good job on SIG for that. Definitely forward thinking as far as what the current shooter needs. Trigger, again, everything is very AR-like, but the question is, how does that trigger work? Okay, for the first time, we're gonna go set trigger together. So we have the SIG MCX Spear, and let's feel that trigger right there. So a little bit of play, very mil-spec like, about 3 millimeters. We hit our wall, solid, about 5.5 pounds. Very typical of an AR, a little nicer actually. All right, feel that reset, quick. And from the reset, actually fairly nice. From the reset, about
Mass reset.
mass effect. From that reset, pretty short, about 3.5. I don't believe that this will likely be the actual trigger used by the military. This is probably going to be the one that's coming with the commercial SIG MCX Spear. But if it is the one with the military, very nice trigger. I would expect a very mil-spec-like trigger from the MCX. It's what you know and love from the M4, guys. Now, thank God on the MCX Spear, to fold the stock as opposed to like yanking up on it and trying to do weird stuff, you simply push that button in, fold it in, and you have your nice little compact package, which you guys will be very familiar with, obviously. Much better design compared to what they used to have on the SIG MCX Spear. So we have our full-length rail up top. Of course, we do have the handguard with the rail out here. The one thing that I'm not going to be able to answer is stability of laser aiming devices on this thing long term, because unfortunately, guys, .277 Fury is a very expensive round right now, and we're only able to do about 500, a little bit more rounds on this guy. So understand that a longevity study in terms of laser retention being good here, or whether you should back it off, I'm not going to be able to speak to at this time. Everything in my gut says that it's going to be good to go based on how stable and how good the mounting platform is. That's going to be one unknown that I'm not able to answer in this particular review. Moving back to the stock, one thing that has always kind of freaked me out about this SIG MCX is the gun looks so big compared to like anything out there. Anytime I've seen anybody holding it, it just looks enormous. And that's probably due in some part due to the fact that we do have a K stock, so it is a shorter stock compared to what you typically see from Magpul, as a quick note there. Final thoughts, guys. As a military replacement for the M4, I don't think it's the way to go. However, if I consider this in terms of capability, would I want to have this? I think this is a really, really cool rifle. I really actually do love it. I love the capability of the round. I love the weapon itself. I love everything about it. The recoil impulse is so gentle for what you're getting out of it. I actually can't say enough good things about this in terms of it being its own little rifle, and it rocks. So if you get a chance to get one, I actually do recommend this. I actually do like it quite a bit. I am 100% definitely on the fence about this being adopted as the main infantry rifle for the United States military, but on its own, it is a very good rifle. Time is certainly going to tell on this guy how it ends up performing and how all these factors come into play that we've talked about. I'm very interested in the future of this gun and how things shake out. But here's the thing. As cool as this rifle is, the fact of the matter is, if you don't know how to shoot, you don't know how to shoot, and you're still gonna suck. Get out there, get training, because if you aren't trained and you try to use this rifle, 100%, especially this guy right here, you are going to die. You are not gonna be able to do anything good. Tons of great places to get training from. Bear Solutions, Haley Strategic, Cogworks, Orion. Lots of great guys out there. Can't recommend these guys enough.